In 2021, a missing person case from England is making headlines around the world. 33-year-old Sarah Everard disappears on her way home in the middle of London. And with each passing day, the situation becomes more dire. Little by little, details are coming to light. Details about Sarah's disappearance, the perpetrator, and how Sarah's fate could have been prevented. Today, the Sarah Everard case is one of the most famous cases in British criminal history. And for good reason, because this is not an isolated case. Sarah Everard moved to London just a few years ago. She's originally from York, a city in the northeast of England that is particularly popular with students and tourists. Sarah herself went to university a little further north in Durham. She has a degree in human geography, but ended up taking a slightly different career path. When Sarah was offered a marketing job in London, she didn't hesitate for long. She found an apartment in the popular neighborhood of Brixton. Many people who graduated from Durham University live there, so Sarah quickly made friends. Over the years, Sarah worked at various marketing agencies in London, steadily climbing the career ladder. She didn't change jobs again until February 2021. She landed a position at the Flipside Group agency in Holborn and was thrilled with her new colleagues and the working environment. So everything is going really well. On March 3, 2021, Sarah is invited to dinner with friends in the Clapham neighborhood. She sets off at around 5 p.m. and spends the early evening there. At around 9 p.m., Sarah leaves her friend's house. Clapham is located in the southwest of the city, just outside the bustling center of London. Sarah's neighborhood, Brixton, is basically next door. This means she can easily walk home. In a huge city like London, it takes a good 40 to 50 minutes to walk between two neighborhoods. But for Sarah, it's a nice evening stroll. Sarah could theoretically also take a bus from her friend's house to Clapham Junction. It would only take a few minutes to get to Brixton. But the weather on March 3rd, 2021 is good. She has to stop at the supermarket on the way anyway to pick up a few things. And with the pandemic situation at the time, a trip on a crowded London city bus is not the most appealing prospect. Sarah crosses Clapham Common Park on her way home. She then continues along a busy highway. She talks to her boyfriend Josh on the phone for a good 14 minutes. The two agree to meet up the next day before saying goodbye. She then walks east down Pointers Road toward Toulse. Sarah is now more than halfway home, but she will never make it there. The next day, Josh waits in vain for Sarah to show up for their date. She doesn't answer her cell phone either. Josh immediately realizes that something is wrong. He alerts the police and reports his girlfriend missing. The police take Sarah's disappearance seriously and start by looking around her immediate neighborhood. Sarah lives near a real estate company that has installed a surveillance camera. Sarah's front door is also recorded within the camera's radius, and there is no sign of Sarah on the footage. This makes it clear that she did not return home on March 3, 2021. Something must have happened to her on her way home. Sarah's parents immediately travel from York to London to search for their daughter. Sarah's siblings, Katie and James, also help with the search wherever they can. The search will continue for several days, and it will be the starting point for one of the most dramatic British criminal cases. Three days after Sarah's disappearance on March 6th, the police appeal to the public. They release a photo of Sarah, and the next day, CCTV footage showing her at 9:28 p.m. on Poinders Road. The footage was taken by a resident's camera. It shows Sarah walking down the street, relaxed, with her cell phone in her hand. After that, her trail goes cold. During the investigation, the London police review more than 1,800 hours of video footage in an effort to find traces of Sarah. Within 48 hours, the police receive more than 100 tips from witnesses. At the same time, several investigators search the route along Sarah's way home. The Clapham Comm Park is searched, a lake in the park is pumped out, and many flyers are distributed. The case quickly becomes very well known. Sarah's photos are in every newspaper and on every television station, even internationally. Perhaps you also heard something about the search for her at the time. If so, please feel free to write about it in the comments. In cases like this, it is common for witness statements to contain a lot of useless information. There are a few statements that are both helpful and worrying. Witnesses report seeing Sarah Everard on Poinders Road on the evening of March 3rd. She got into a car, in handcuffs. It was therefore clear that Sarah Everard had been kidnapped. The police are focusing on dashcam footage provided by several drivers who witnessed the incident. And indeed, they find a recording that shows exactly what witnesses described. Sarah can be seen standing next to a man in a car with its hazard lights still on. The two are talking. The man shows her an object he is holding in his hand, presumably the handcuffs with which Sarah then gets into the car. The video shows the last seconds before her abduction. Fortunately, the police are able to find out where the car came from using the license plate. It is a rental car that was rented in the city of Dover. Dover is located on the east coast of England, a good 120 kilometers from London. The police request the car rental company's CCTV footage and order books. The name of the man who rented the car is Wayne Cousins. He can be seen in the car rental company's videos, and he looks exactly like the man Sarah last spoke to on the side of the road. After a few days of investigation, he is the prime suspect. Wayne Cousins lives outside London but works for the Metropolitan Police. He's a member of the unit responsible for protecting politicians and relevant institutions, such as Parliament and embassies. On the day Sarah disappeared, Wayne was working in London and had completed a shift at the US Embassy. He then drove to Dover and rented the car. He drove back to London from Dover in the afternoon. This is confirmed by further camera footage. 6 days after Sarah's disappearance, on March 9th, the police show up at Wayne's home. Just half an hour earlier, Wayne had tried to delete some data from his cell phone. Wayne is then questioned by other police officers on his sofa at home. There are body cam recordings of this conversation, some of which you will see in a moment. The police officer questioning Wayne starts off innocently enough. He asks if he knows Sarah, shows him a photo of her, and asks Wayne if he recognizes the woman. Wayne says no. When the cop points out that Sarah is missing, Wayne admits that he heard about it on the news. Anything else would have been hard to imagine. At the time, the case is all over the media in the UK. Then Wayne suddenly admits that he had something to do with Sarah's disappearance. However, he tells a story that couldn't be less believable.
Okay, well, I am in financial, and I've been lent on by, I don't know who they are. They're a group, a gang, whatever. And they told me, right, I need to go and pick up girls and give them to them. So I said, not happening. And it then came through that they're going to harm my family, take them away, and they'll use them instead. At that point, I had no option to try and find somebody. So I don't. There's just a couple of names. I was told a place to take her. That's it. That is all I know.
Wayne claims that a sinister criminal gang forced him to kidnap Sarah Everard for them. Whether Wayne really thinks this story is a good excuse or whether he is simply desperate, we can only guess. The fact is, however, that his diversionary tactic is not working. When investigators ask Wayne for more details, he mentions a white van with a Romanian license plate. He says he handed Sarah over to the gang somewhere between Maidstone and Lanham. The whole thing happened at a roundabout. Wayne even goes so far as to offer to lead the police to the location right away. But a check of camera and cell phone data shows that he has never been there in the last few days. Wayne is therefore arrested and remanded in custody. The police search Wayne's house and a wooded area that he partly owns. On March 10th, the remains of a person are found there. The body has been burned and can only be identified by a dental check. While the comparison is still ongoing, Wayne is found in his cell with a head injury. He has to be taken to hospital for treatment. The very next day, exactly the same thing happens again. Both times he was alone in his cell. It seems obvious that Wayne has tried to harm himself in order to escape responsibility, because the dead woman found in Wayne's woodland is indeed the missing Sarah Everard. The autopsy reveals the cause of death. Sarah was strangled. The perpetrator must have applied significant pressure to her neck for more than 2 minutes. That same evening, Wayne is officially charged with the murder and kidnapping of Sarah Everard. But there will never be a trial. At the beginning of June, hearings are held before the criminal court. On June 8th, Wayne Cousins pleads guilty to the kidnapping and rape of Sarah Everard. He also takes responsibility for her death, but denies that the act was murder. He said he had planned to abuse Sarah, but not to murder her. However, just 1 day later, at a second hearing, Wayne breaks down and also pleads guilty to murder. As a result, the case against Wayne is dropped. Instead, 2 days are scheduled for a verdict to be reached and handed down. And these 2 court dates are sorely needed. Not only because the crime against Sarah was so serious, but also because there are details that the judges in this case absolutely need to hear. Because Sarah's murder might have been prevented. In the month before Sarah's disappearance, Wayne had already been reported twice for sexually motivated crimes. Both incidents took place at a McDonald's drive-thru in Swanley, Kent. On both February 14th and 27th, Wayne allegedly exposed himself to female employees there. On February 28th, the 2 incidents were reported by the manager of the McDonald's restaurant. Since these drive-thrus are monitored by cameras, the license plate number could be identified immediately. It turned out that the car belonged to Wayne Cousins. On March 3rd, a police officer even drove to Swanley because of these 2 incidents. There, she took down the license plate number and credit card details of Wayne Cousins. However, the employees of the branch, who were actually the victims, were not questioned. Just 2 hours before Sarah Everard was murdered by Wayne, the police officer in charge wrote a report. In it, she recommended that the vehicle owner Wayne Cousins be arrested. But this obviously never happened. And so Wayne was able to move freely through Kent and London that day and commit the crime against Sarah Everard. Public accusations quickly arose that the police had deliberately let the case slip through the net. This is precisely because Wayne himself is a police officer. There has been criticism of the London police for some time, and as the investigation into the Sarah Everard case will show, this criticism is not unfounded. Wayne is also said to have driven through Dover naked from the waist down in 2015. That was before he was employed by the Metropolitan Police. The matter was not pursued at the time. In November 2008, Wayne allegedly exposed himself to a woman in South London. Again, the investigation was dropped because no clear suspect could be found at the time. And Wayne has had a relevant nickname among his colleagues for some time. They call him the Rapist because some of his female colleagues feel so uncomfortable around him. This says a lot not only about Wayne himself, but also about his police colleagues. Together with a few other police officers, Wayne has a WhatsApp group. The men exchange all kinds of memes and jokes about racism and misogyny. They fantasize about sexually assaulting a female colleague, joke about how attractive a 15-year-old girl was during an operation, and write that they would like to use their tasers to torture animals. What they write goes far beyond what could be justified as black humor. Because these men are all police officers, they are there to help people in distress, especially when they are vulnerable. And in their messages, the men refer explicitly to their everyday lives and their position as police officers. There are also new findings regarding the murder of Sarah itself that will influence the verdict. Camera footage has shown that Wayne drove the same route in circles repeatedly on the evening of March 3rd. Investigators are certain that he was deliberately looking for a woman who was out alone in London. The police are able to reconstruct the sequence of events fairly well based on additional camera footage from houses, dash cams, and mobile phone data. And this sequence of events suggests that Wayne Couzens probably deliberately exploited his position as a police officer. A dash cam recording made by a motorist partially captured the encounter between Sarah and Wayne. It is highly likely that everything happened as follows on March 3, 2021. Wayne's car is parked at Pointers Court with its hazard lights on. Sarah walks past on her way home and is approached by Wayne. Wayne shows her his police badge and handcuffs Sarah. It is believed that he probably told her he was arresting her for an alleged violation of pandemic measures. In March 2021, London is under strict lockdown. It is also prohibited to meet with another person who does not live in your own household. So, Sarah shouldn't have been visiting her friend that evening. From his point of view, Wayne was lucky in this case, if you can call it that. He couldn't have known when he approached her, but Sarah had just done something illegal. And at that time, the London police were cracking down hard on anyone who violated the lockdown measures. That's why Sarah had no chance of realizing that something was wrong with the situation. She must have been completely perplexed, and Wayne showed her his police badge. Sarah probably didn't even have time to process the situation before she was sitting in the back seat in handcuffs. The footage showing the encounter between Sarah and Wayne was recorded at 9:35 p.m. At 9:38 p.m., the car is already back on the road and driving out of London. At this point, Sarah is unable to defend herself because she is handcuffed in the back seat. Wayne drives back to Dover, where he lives. There, he transfers Sarah from the rental car to his private car, a seat. Between 11:53 p.m. and 12:57 a.m., Wayne's cell phone logs into several cell towers in Shepherdswell. At 2:43 a.m., Wayne is back in Dover and buys drinks at a gas station. It is assumed that Sarah is already dead at this point and that her body is in Wayne's car. He then drives on to Hodes Wood, the wooded area where he owns part of a plot of land. He bought it in 2019 for £5,000. However, it is not an idyllic piece of woodland as one might imagine, but rather an illegal rubbish dump. Old freezers, partially scrapped cars, and other junk are lying around there. Wayne stays in this wooded area until around 6:30 a.m., probably to hide Sarah's body there. He then drives home, switches back to the rental car, and drives to Sandwich, where he dumps Sarah's cell phone in a river. By switching between the two cars, Wayne was probably trying to cover his tracks. On March 5th, Wayne goes to a gas station to fill a canister with gasoline. He uses this gasoline to burn Sarah's body in an old refrigerator in Hodes Wood. Later, he buys garbage bags at a hardware store and puts Sarah's remains in them. He then sinks them in a lake in the woods. The remains are found there on March 10th. In the days between burning Sarah's body and his arrest, Wayne continued to behave largely normally. He spent time with his wife and their 2 children and made a vet appointment for the family dog. It was not until March 8th that Wayne called in sick and handed in his service handcuffs and police belt at his station. The police suspect that this police belt was the tool he used to strangle Sarah. As you can see, the evidence against Wayne Couzens is more than overwhelming. Even without his confession, there would have been no doubt about his guilt. For this reason, he's receiving the maximum sentence. Wayne Couzens is the first police officer in the UK to receive a life sentence. Even after his conviction, more and more accusations are being made against Wayne Couzens. When he was in his early 20s, he allegedly abused a teenage girl. In addition, according to some reports, Couzens also possessed relevant images of children. Between 2006 and 2007, Wayne is said to have raped a woman in London. In October 2019, there was another rape allegation in London. And in the summer of 2019, Wayne is said to have assaulted a man on a train in Kent. Wayne also claimed to the male victim that he was a police officer. So who knows how many times he has pulled this scam before? In addition to these cases, 4 other people have come forward accusing Wayne of sexual offenses. These cases were not reported at the time and were only brought to the attention of the police after the fact. But even before that, there had been investigations and incidents. The last one was just 3 days before Sarah's abduction. Consistent action was never taken. And it is precisely this circumstance that is one of the reasons why the Sarah Everard case has gained such sad notoriety. Because Wayne Couzens is a man who has repeatedly come to the attention of the authorities. Nevertheless, he was able to work in the police force and exploit the position of power that this gave him. The Sarah Everard case has become a symbol of the injustice and fear that many women face. Because Sarah Everard could have been any other woman. She was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Unfortunately, this also means that no woman was safe when Wayne Couzens was driving through London looking for a victim. And you probably know this from your own experience or from your surroundings. Very few women feel comfortable walking home in the dark. What should be an everyday occurrence understandably causes many women to feel genuinely afraid. And the case of Sarah Everard shows that this fear is unfortunately justified. What's more, Sarah was murdered by someone who deliberately exploited his position as a police officer and the trust placed in him. Despite the lockdown, hundreds of people gathered in London to demonstrate for women's rights. Even Duchess Kate was there. Later, the event was broken up by the police because it violated lockdown restrictions. 4 people were even arrested. This was met with further criticism, not only from the civilian population. The future Prime Minister Starmer and the then incumbent Johnson also expressed their incomprehension at the rigorous actions of the police. Because that is one of the issues at stake here. It's about the police protecting women and spaces for women. Just as the police should have protected women like Sarah Everard from men like Wayne Couzens. I'm sure many of you at least heard about the Sarah Everard case at the time. I remember reading about it in the media. However, I was unaware of many of the background details, especially about the perpetrator, until I did some research. Feel free to write in the comments what you found new in this video. By the way, you'll also be supporting the channel because any interaction helps enormously. Other than that, there's not much more to say. I wish you a good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching this video, and hope to see you again in the next one. Until then, bye everyone.